Hi, everyone. I'm Robert Waggoner, and I'm happy to be here with you today, along with the World of Lucid Dreaming folks. Jake at World of Lucid Dreaming has invited me to give a talk each first week of the month, and this week we're doing it on July 3rd on a Thursday. I'm just happy to have you here with me. Um, Today, because I got busy with a bunch of other things, I don't really have a presentation set up. I I did just want to read something out of my second book, Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, that I co-authored with Caroline McCready, and and when I was just going to read here in chapter 6 here that I begin the chapter saying, social psychologist Kurt Lewin has observed, if you truly want to understand something, try to change it. So when you begin to change something in a system, and now this is me talking, your family, your school, your business, your neighborhood, the entire system responds and reveals previously unnoticed connections, relationships, and associations. By observing that change, a careful observer gains insight into the dynamic nature of the underlying system and how it actually works. Because lucid dreaming allows for conscious deliberation and experimentation, you can literally change almost any aspect of a lucid dream. Can you stop the dream action or even rewind the dream? Can you remove the color from the dream scene? As you try to change it, you see how the underlying system or matrix of dreaming responds, and you move closer to Lewin's goal of deeper understanding. Again, his quote was, he's a social psychologist, if you want truly to understand something, try to change it. And so that's the beautiful thing about lucid dreaming. You can experiment within your own lucid dreams and begin to change things. Now, what you begin to notice relatively quickly is that you do not control everything. You can influence a lot of things, you can manipulate a lot of things, you can do all sorts of interesting things, but you literally don't control everything because a lot of times the things that you intend to do, the things that you really want to do, you just can't do them. And so that's when you have to go looking for other factors involved. And that's why in all of my books, I keep repeatedly pointing out the importance of looking at your own mindset, your own beliefs, expectations, focus, intent, your unexamined assumptions of what's possible, what's impossible. All of that helps to create the lucid dream experience that you're perceiving, but it also is part of basically the matrix of what you're experiencing. So sometimes if you're not getting what you want, the problem isn't out there again. The problem is looking at your own beliefs, your own assumptions, your own ideas, your own emotions. All of that factor into how the lucid dream gets created. And so that's why it's always so important to look at that. But of course, as you go along, you'll realize that there's aspects there that are just completely inexplicable. And that's why I was so happy in 1985, after 10 years of lucid dreaming. I was part of a Lucid Dream Explorers group, and we had a goal 1 month to find a dream figure and find out what it symbolizes or what it represents. And so I followed a woman, lucidly aware, into an office building. Now there's three women in the office and a gentleman in a three-piece suit. And I walked up to him and I asked him, "Excuse me, what do you represent?" And I thought the dream figure would respond because that's what had always happened in my previous lucid dreams. The dream figure would either not respond or look at the floor or would respond. But instead of the dream figure, this gentleman responding, a voice began to boom out a partial response from high above him. And so I looked up and I repeated what I'd heard. And then the voice, it's like it had to think about it. And then it expressed what this gentleman represented. And that's when I realized that there's another factor going on here. Besides my own beliefs, expectation, focus, intent, all of that, all my assumptions and all, there's also an inner awareness that we can engage in the lucid dream. And you'll see it if you think about it just in your normal lucid dreams. You fly through a wall, you get to the other side, here's a whole new landscape that's totally unexpected. Where did that come from? Where did that appear from? And that's when you realize that, there's more than me in this lucid dream. There's more than the conscious self or the ego self, if you prefer. There's more going on there. That's when you realize that somehow something was created on the other side of the door. Somehow something was created on the other side of the wall. And that's when you begin to realize that there's likely an inner awareness that you can interact with and engage in the lucid dream. Of course, for people who take my courses and all or read my books, I always suggest that you start out slow in this regard. And by slow, I mean you should start at the kind of the ground level of asking questions like, "Hey, dream, show me something hilarious." And the reason why you'd ask such a simple kind of thing is that no one is concerned about seeing something hilarious. You don't have any resistance to it. You don't have any concern about it. You don't have any fear or other emotional thing that'll come up. "Hey, dream, show me something hilarious." And then just wait to see what happens. As I talk about in my book, you can also take it much further, like, "Hey, dream, show me something important for me to see." And sometimes something will appear in the dream that wasn't in the lucid dream that wasn't there before. Sometimes the entire lucid dream will change, and you'll be looking at something that's completely outside of your own thinking, but you ask the question, "Hey, dream, show me something important for me to see." Normally, it's important. The only thing is this: sometimes the conscious self in the lucid dream can't put it together, can't see the symbolic element, can't see how it all connects. And it might be something that they won't understand, for 3 or 4 months. And then one day it'll hit them and they'll go, "Oh, now I know when I asked, show me something important to see, that I was shown what I was shown, because now I'm at a place in my life where suddenly I see that that's the biggest thing going on in my life. And that's the most important thing that I need to deal with." So sometimes, again, it's not always obvious what you're engaging with. And that's why I encourage people just to experiment, start out on the base floor, and see where it takes them from there and all. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Again, if you don't mind being on the recording, you can raise your hand like I'm doing now. If you don't want to be on the recording, then what I suggest, put your question into the chat and I'll get you there. So looks like Bill has his hand up. Bill, we'll have you unmute, and there you go.
Yeah. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Bill.
Good to see you again.
Thanks.
So I just want to acknowledge I completed your course. It's almost done. Still going through the material, the lucid dreaming and living lucidly in the spring.
Yeah.
And I've done some work with lucid dreaming, and I found your workshop to be very complete and inspiring. And but I will acknowledge it. There are things that I have to deal with respect to my relationship to dreaming. One of the things I took away from the course was, well, develop your love for dreaming. And in doing that, it had me see, well, what's been my relationship to dreaming? And I've had lucid dreams, but they were pretty much one-offs over the years.
Yep.
Some of very powerful that I'll never forget. But nonetheless, they've always been pretty brief and occurred like an anomaly. And I could see where there's things for me to deal with before I get really centered and an empowering relationship, so to speak, with dreaming. And out of your workshop, I've got all the material to do that ongoingly. I mean, what you and Ed and Jillian had to share was just so powerful and complete. I've been going through it very very thoroughly, and
Oh, good.
training and re-educating myself in it. So just wanted, we don't have a chance to get together with that group again, but just wanted to really say thanks, and if you would pass that on to Ed and Jillian for very empowering and worthwhile time in that
Oh,
workshop.
thanks. Thanks. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, and I'm
But
not a plant. I'm not a plant. I've been
not a
coming to
plan.
you all along.
Anyway, all I have is house plans. I don't have video plans or webinar plans. But anyway, thanks, Bill, for mentioning that. Here's the one thing that I would say, that if you learn how to become lucidly aware, once or twice a month, how to stabilize the lucid dream once you get there, and also how to create and pre-plan goals to achieve, you can begin to have some really high quality lucid dreams just in those 3 steps. And I've had some people just have extraordinary lucid dreams in their first 5 or 6, because they followed the rules, the guidelines that I gave them, and even surprised themselves. But a lot of us, we have a trap, and that is we become lucidly aware, we stabilize the lucid dream, and then it is so interesting, so fun to fly around, to do whatever, that we just spend the rest of the lucid dream engaged in the fun activity. And now I'm not complaining, because I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975, and I would say the first 8 years was basically playing around and having fun, because the scientific evidence didn't emerge until 1980, and even then it was really difficult to interact with anyone who was very advanced at lucid dreaming. But I would say that learn how to lucid dream, stabilize the lucid dream, have your goal in mind, and be prepared with an idea of how you're going to interact it and do it. And that's basically the 3-step process for people to have really powerful lucid dreams. So best wishes to you, Bill, and I'll pass on your thanks to Ed and Jillian. Okay, thanks. Okay, now we're up to Mark. Hi there, Mark.
Hey, Robert, good to see you again, and thanks for doing this as always this month.
Yeah.
The old rheostat kind of situation where you talk about the light and how you just move it that little bit more and it takes you from non-lucidity to lucidity. And I find myself tantalizingly close at times, but then I get to this situation where it just isn't quite enough to recognize that I'm dreaming. Any tips on when you're that close? And then the other thing will just be a little question about maybe recurring situations that I've been having with infants, literally maybe only months or a year old, who are speaking in completely adult language and understandability. They're communicating like an adult, but it's this tiny little baby. So that was just something I've had come up on a couple different times, 2 or 3, and I'm just curious about those 2 things, how to fix maybe that rheostat to go that little bit further in your experience, and then some of these recurring things with talking little bitty babies.
Okay. Here's one thing that I found really important is this. Part of that rheostat is just how we engage with what we're experiencing. So oftentimes, if you're in the big city, you'll be taught, don't look at those strange people, and don't answer that question. If that person needs help, just keep on walking, just focus on yourself, and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes we have kind of a background that says, don't get involved, don't notice, stay in your own lane, and leave it like that. And so some of us have to actually learn how to get engaged, how to get involved. Not that when you're walking down the street later today, if you see something, like, oh, there's a guy over there with a gun, and he's I should go over there and find out what's going on. Instead, it's more, we have to train our awareness to focus on odd things, to focus on strange things, to focus on unusual things, and then question why am I seeing this? What's going on here? And so that for me is what, because so many people get right up to the edge of lucidity and then they walk away from the doorway. And I mean, they're looking through the door, they notice something strange. They see that, something is illogical, doesn't make sense. And then they just turn away and all. So the thing I'd encourage you to do, Mark, is just during the day, begin to investigate anything that strikes you as a little bit odd, a little bit unusual. What's that doing here? I don't remember that being here, 10 minutes ago when I came into this room. And by doing that, a lot of times that's enough to just shift us in to adopting that kind of mindset in the dream state. Like, wait a second, little baby's talking. This is too bloody strange. And I'm going to investigate this. Oh, this has to be a dream because, this kid's obviously 9 months old and can't be quoting Plato at this age. So.
Great, thank you. And do you reality check maybe at that point to just
yeah, if you want to do a reality check, I mean, if I had a little 9-month-old quoting Plato or whatever, I wouldn't have to do a reality check. I would just say that this is just bizarre off the scale. This is 3 standard deviations from the norm. But if you do have a concern and that you're uncertain and all, but even when it comes to reality checks, you might want to have 2 or 3 in mind, like jumping up. Do I float? Do I hit the ground really hard? If I float, then obviously gravity isn't working like it does in waking reality. But if that doesn't work, then pulling my finger. If my finger keeps growing, then obviously that's a thing. But sometimes it helps to have a couple of reality checks because one might not work. Like if I decide, I'm going to put my hand through this wall. Well, boy, that wall looks so solid and everything. Now have convinced myself that reality check's not going to work. So it doesn't even make any sense. But jumping out, that's a tough one. Every time I jump up in a lucid dream, I just don't hit the ground like I would in the waking state. There's too much float time. So yeah, but Mark, keep going with that. And that's a good one though. I like the infants talking. That's kind of
Me too. I'll let you know if I get any profound insights from what they tell me.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Good talking to you. Okay, Claudio, we're going to you next.
Hello.
Hi
Can
there.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. I get a little problems and I can't be aware anymore in dreams. This night I had a real big dream, and when I wake up, for me was a simulation. Instead to be aware there was a dream, was a simulation, in some other kind of play. And when I wake up, my feeling was that is not real.
Right.
The wake state, the dream state is more real than the wake state. I read about, but now this night I think that I can feel it, and I still not. I had a big dream with because when I have some nightmare, as you suggest, I go through the nightmare to embrace my fear, to get rid of the nightmare. And I did like a few times, and I feel like my subconscious, I don't know, it didn't want to go out now because I had a big moment, and I asked to my subconscious, my inconscious, I don't know how I tell it, then I'm aware to see what he have to tell me. But now it speak like more symbolic, and for some period I used to find a lot of children, and usually are really like heavy devil children. They was like becoming a real hostile, and my point was to embrace them and that what happened, why you act like that, how I can help you. And one day he tell me, okay, you don't did nothing now, but in the past you do something to me, you did something bad. But in the past was like 500, 600 years ago, was something other life, I suppose, because it changed like was a movie. It was open on a oof, I don't know how we call it in English. Carrozzo. Okay, in with a horse, with other not machines, not car, was in another environment. Looked like
an open field.
An open field. That's it. And when I wake up, when I was to see what will happen, because like I suppose that I wasn't ready to look at, and I understand. And I go to the to know my shadow, and embrace them, as Jung say, to have this process. And I don't have any fun because I want to fly, I want to have fun, as you tell me for some time, but I can't. And I still in the dreaming, like no aware. I don't know what happened. I make some reality check. I put my diary, my journal. I go to highlight all point, all emotion that can trigger my lucidity. Meantime, the last month, when I was scared or real anxious, I become lucid. Now, don't happen. I be less scared, less fear.
Yeah.
But it can trigger. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're right. A fair number of people become lucid when they have something that's frightful or scary. They'll see zombies. Here come the witches. Here come the bad guys. Then they'll think, wait a second, this can't be happening. And then they'll become lucidly aware. But you're right. All of us go through periods where we don't have lucid dreams. So don't be surprised, if you go 1 or 2 or 3 months without having a lucid dream.
Oh no, I hope not 3 months. It's 40 days, but I am already concerned about.
Well, so what I would do if that was the case, you could do a couple things. So there's what people call dream incubation. Just tonight as you're going to sleep, go, hey, dreaming self, I'd like to have lucid dreams tonight. Tonight, help me resolve whatever the blockage is so that I can begin to have lucid dreams. Or tonight, show me what the blockage is so I can begin to have lucid dreams. Sometimes when you do it, sometimes when you do a dream incubation, all of a sudden you'll see that, I'm really concerned about whatever it is, or, I can see what the issue is now, and I understand why I'm not having lucid dreams. A lot of times it has to do, there's 2 things I've seen. People either get a fear response in the lucid dream and shut down their lucid dreaming, or here's the second thing, their lucid dream asks them to grow as a person. And the ego says, no way, not going to do it. I'm not going to forgive my ex-wife. I'm not going to, do this, that, or the other. And it's no way. And so that's when you kind of get in between a battle of the conscious self and its inner wisdom. The inner wisdom knows that the self has to grow, and the ego conscious self says, no way, not going to do it. I'm not changing anything, until. So
because in mind I want to do it, but maybe I'm not still ready, and my ego say not yet. Don't go too far.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's probably what's going on, Claudio. But I'm sure they'll return. And then the only other thing that I like to do is this. Sometimes when I get into a dream drought, I'll go read Lucid Dreams in our free online magazine, the Lucid Dreaming Experience. And sometimes just reading somebody else's lucid dream, I go, wow, that is so weird. A woman who kept taking a left turn and a right turn and a left turn and a right turn and finally became lucid and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes when you read somebody else's stuff, then somehow that helps you resort your stuff so you can allow yourself to have lucid dreams again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert.
Yeah, good luck, Claudio. Good chat with you. Yeah. So now I'm going to go to the thing. Here we have one from Sierra who writes, hello, Robert. I just wanted to share that I've had about 5 lucid dreams in a year. I had a really long one, and even though I was lucid, it almost felt like I was drunk during the dream. I was extremely happy and goofy and very easily distracted. The only thing I can compare it to was it was like I'd been drinking, but in waking reality, I don't really drink. I kind of think I almost needed to be that way or the dream would have been very short. I just wanted to share that. And Sierra, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of times what surprised me when I began lucid dreaming was sometimes I'd have this kind of weird energy, like you say, that kind of made me like super happy, super kind of giddy, kind of super like, oh, all this is a big joke. And so now I can go around and do whatever I want. And so it's not uncommon, I think, for lucid dreamers to have that kind of feeling that you almost feel drunk, as you put it, that, you can do whatever you want. But also the other aspect that I think you bring up is this, which is very true. Sometimes we just need to have fun in our lucid dreams. We just can't be pecking after our lucid dreams to do this for me, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me all the time. Sometimes the number one priority is simply just to let go and have fun. So I agree with you. But here's the thing, Sierra. If 5 years from now, all you're doing is still just having fun in your lucid dreams, then you're not growing. Then you're not exploring, expanding, and all that kind of stuff, probably. So I agree with you. Have some fun. But if that's all you do, then there's much more to do. Anyway, so Jane writes, I enjoy my dreams too much. My dreams can be very bizarre, and I just go with it. When I record my dreams in the morning, I highlight so many things that should have alerted me that I'm dreaming. I can look all day long and question things that are happening. And then at night when I'm dreaming, I still go along with everything that happens. I've only had one lucid dream 8 years ago. And so, Jane, I hear what you're saying there. It's really an issue because some of us are socialized to be nice and helpful and go along with things, just go along. And so here comes the 6-month-old talking baby, and it needs directions to Central Park. Oh yes, little baby, you just go down Broadway here and blah, 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 and take a ride at 48th, and there you are. Anyway, and then later we wake up and go, 6-month-old talking baby wants directions to Central Park. Holy crap, I should have become lucidly aware. But we have this socialization process ingrained in us, and that's what we follow. That's what we follow. And instead of becoming lucidly aware, we just follow that as kind of our primary modality and all. So that's oftentimes what happens. I remember one time I was in a workshop with a woman, and she told me that she had become lucid once, and it was on a special day. And I go, what do you mean it was a special day? And she said, well, the special aspect of it is that I think she was Bulgarian or Romanian, that somehow the Bulgarian national soccer team had won the big conference league that they were in. And she was so excited at the final game that night she went to sleep and had her first truly incredible lucid dream that lasted a long time. So again, sometimes people have to get their head into kind of a certain state in order to allow it to happen. Now, what I have noticed, though, is some people need emotional energy. Some people need to get excited about lucid dreaming. And that's why reading, sometimes a lot of people write me that I read your first book, and in the first 50 pages, I had, by the time I finished page 50, I'd already had 5 lucid dreams, because they got so excited at the idea of it as they were reading the book, they began to have lucid dreams. Other times people get too excited. They'll get so excited they can't sleep right, or what, are they trying so hard? I mean, they're just approaching it in a difficult way. So anyway, if you've had one in the last 8 years, the great thing, you know you can do it. But the thing that I would say is, if you play with it, you'll start to see that you could begin to have lucid dreams more than that, if you worked with it. One thing that I like is the power of suggestion. Just something as simple as, tonight in my dreams, I'll be extra aware. And when I notice anything even a little bit strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So, or tonight in my dreams, there'll be some part of me that will tell me that I'm dreaming. There'll be some part of me that'll help me become aware that I'm dreaming, and that part will ensure that I become lucidly aware. Because a lot of us have that experience where we need to get up at 4 a.m. to drive to the airport for the early flight. And we put our old-fashioned alarm and set it for 4. And then suddenly, boom, we wake up and we look at our clock and it says 3:59, and 5 seconds later it's 4 o'clock and the alarm's ringing. It's like there's this part of us that is aware. You know, we have our ego self, we have our conscious self, we have all of that. But there's this part of us that is actually, if we tell it, help us become lucidly aware. Or tonight at 5:30 in the morning, do something that'll make me become lucidly aware. And hopefully you'll be able to pull that off. I have had workshops where people have told me that they're in my workshop, and then that night they're driving down the Autobahn and they see a big truck come by, and on the side of the truck it says, "Lucid Dreaming, ask me how. Are you dreaming right now?" And they'll be driving on the Autobahn thinking, "Oh my God, they're marketing lucid dreaming on the Autobahn now. How outrageous." And then they'll wake up and go, "Oh my God, what a great signal that was. It asked me, are you dreaming now?" and had a big thing about lucid dreaming. But I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about us as folks. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own reaction to what we're experiencing that we don't become lucidly aware. So anyway, I'm with you, Jane. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but I encourage you to either read a good book on lucid dreaming. You can go to my free online magazine at luciddreamingmagazine.com. Just start reading some of the articles. I'll tell you, I became lucid. Sometimes I'd read an article or read a lucid dream, and I'd think, that is crazy. That's the most impossible thing ever. That guy just made up that lucid dream and submitted it to our magazine. And then later that week, I would find myself in that same exact situation and go, oh my God, this is a lucid dream. And now I'm doing what that guy said was possible. And now I'm doing it. And it's almost like that emotional reaction, like, could that really happen? That sense of curiosity, that sense of wanting to explore and investigate, that really helped me become lucidly aware. Okay, other issues that people want to bring up. I am going to bring up something that I thought was really interesting. There was a recent scientific research report that came out, and I think like 3 or 4 issues back in the lucid dreaming experience, I interviewed this guy. I think it was last September. I interviewed this guy. His name is David Green. He's from the UK. Here was the thing that David Green would do in his lucid dreams. He's kind of an artist by profession, and so he'd become lucidly aware, and and he would work with dream figures to create art in the lucid dream. And he would get this hilarious art sometimes, or he'd put a pen out, in the lucid dream, and it would start drawing something. Anyway, really a talented lucid dreamer, really nice, a funny young guy. I don't know if somebody read that article or how they heard about David Green, but anyway, they asked him to be part of a research project, and the research project was this: they were going to ask him to lucidly dream about an image that would be selected in the future. So they'd give him the idea that, okay, on July 1st, we're going to randomly select an image. And we want you, before July 1st, to become lucidly aware. And then in your lucid dream, figure out what that image is going to be and draw it out and give us the results in the morning. And then we'll see what gets randomly selected on July 1st or whatever. I think that's basically the protocol. And then they had the judges, and they had different types of judging. But some of his drawings were so much like what the dream image was, or the target image was. His lucid dream image was so much like what the target image was, and it had even yet to be selected. It is really fascinating. If I can find that research bit, I'll put it in the next Lucid Dreaming Experience magazine. I hope to re-talk to David and find out about his thoughts about what happened. But it's just very, very obvious that he got information outside of space and time. Anyway, other questions, other things that people would like to talk about? Any interesting experience they want to share? Anything like that? Okay, Fur, we got your hand up. Go for it.
Hi,
there.
Robert.
Hi.
Thank you for these monthly sessions. I really love them.
Okay.
I was going to see if you would comment about something from the last LDE issue.
Okay.
And in that issue, Claire Johnson talks a little bit about her first podcast and how she interviewed you.
Right.
And she said some of your parting words were, "Don't get depressed by external events. Overall, it's for the good of humankind. They are leading us to a better outcome." Could you please expound on that some, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what happened. I have a lucid dreaming friend, Claire Johnson, and she started up a podcast and interviewed me. And we were talking about strange lucid dream experiences and strange dream figures. And so this is what happened. One time I found myself, I suddenly became lucidly aware as I was looking at a woman who appeared to be about 35 years old. And she's looking just right into my eyes. And then next to her was a guy who had his eyes were closed like he was asleep, and his head was tilted over like he was asleep. And he looked like he was 35 years old. So these two people are right in front of me, or these true figures are right in front of me. And the woman gets my attention by saying, "I want you to understand that about 100 years to you, Robert, is 1 year to me." And I said, "What?" And because initially I couldn't figure out what she's trying to tell me. She says, "I want you to understand that about 100 years to you is just 1 year to me." And I thought, oh my God, this being here is telling me that she's about 3,500 years old. And I go, okay, I get it. And then she looked at me and she said, "I want you to understand that ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to your system." And I'm pretty sure those are the exact words she used. Ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to your system. And I go, okay, I got that. And that seemed to be the big message. And so I woke up and wrote it down. And so I'm not a person who reads science fiction or any of that kind of stuff. I hadn't been playing around, with time sequences in my head. I do know that there's some folks who are in like the Hindi and Vedic tradition. There's various traditions that say that we're going through these kind of giant expanses of time, and that uh, one of the periods has just ended. But also, and I don't know if I shared this with Claire, but this same couple reappeared within the next few months, a few more times, and they showed me some other things that I assume are things that are going to happen in our future. But what I got out of it was this, that the woman was aware because at an unconscious level, all of us understand this. At a deep unconscious level, we all understand this. The guy was asleep because on a waking level, we haven't seen this ancient spiritual knowledge returning. But I think at a deeper level, we're starting to get that fact that we've got to spiritually change our relationship to the planet, to each other, to so many things if we're going to grow and continue as a species and all. And so what I told Claire Johnson was, whenever I'm watching the nightly news and see something horrible, and oh my gosh, here's another war, and oh my gosh, here's another horrible, typhoon or whatever, I just tell myself that ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to our system, and that we're all one way or the other on that journey together, and that's what the real issue is here that's going on. And so it's unfortunate to have wars. It's unfortunate to have typhoons and hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. But if ancient spiritual knowledge is returning to our system, then things are ultimately going to get better, even if we have to go through all of that. So yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. So thank you. Yeah, that was really a weird one. When you meet someone who tells you 100 years to me is 1 year to them, that's really one of those where you go, wait a second. It kind of reminded me one time I became lucidly aware, and in front of me were these two guys in black silk robes, and they're both Asian guys. And the taller one, he was younger, and he nudged his partner, who was kind of looking off to the side, that look, there's someone aware here in the same space with us. And so his partner looked at me, and I looked at them, and we all shook our heads and kind of greeted each other in that space. And then when I woke up, I thought, who wears black robes in Asia? I mean, I just don't know enough about Asia to know that. And I wrote to some of my friends who are Chinese esoteric Buddhists, and they go, "Oh, those are Taoist monks." And I go, "Taoist monks wear black robes?" And they go, "Oh yeah." And I go, "But what would Taoist monks be doing in a lucid dream?" And they go, "Oh, well, there's a secret society within Taoism that teaches things like lucid dreaming and out of bodies." And I go, "There is?" And they go, "Oh yeah, but you never hear about it because it's one of their secret societies, just like there's secret societies in Native American and various shamanic traditions and all, that in those secret societies, lucid dreaming is utilized. But if you're not part of the society, no one's going to talk to you about it. It's just not going to happen. They might mention it, but if you're not part of the society, you're not going to be taught in their traditions and all." So anyway, again, sometimes in the lucid dream state, and who knows, those might have been OBE states, but sometimes in those inner states, you have those kind of interactions where you actually learn something that's totally outside of your own knowing. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, it was interesting in our magazine, the Lucid Dreaming Experience. I always like when people submit their first lucid dream, and here's one by a woman named Laura, And I'll just read it. It's just really a short one, but it's here on page 27. She wrote, I woke from sleep one night and found it hard to go back to sleep. So I started meditating. And she writes, I practiced transcendental meditation. And I over meditated in terms of time because I usually meditate for 20 minutes, but this meditation was very deep and went on with no interruption for 2 hours. And I assume she's estimating 2 hours. Anyway, she writes, when I was at the end of my meditation, I felt I was walking a tightrope. And then I entered a room that was full of the most brilliant light I had ever experienced. Right at the center of the room was my deceased mother. And that was my sign that this was a lucid dream because my mother had died 10 years ago. I was so excited. I went to her and held her warm hands in mine and said, Mom, I am having a lucid dream as you are alive in this dream, but you have actually died. She replied, so you think we die when we die? And as she uttered those words, I watched the top of her body disintegrate until I was left holding her hands. I woke up jubilant that I had experienced my first lucid dream. So anyway, if this was my experience, and what I suggest to people in my books where I have chapters on interacting with deceased dream figures, it's hard to know whether it's a symbol, a projection of your own mental energy, or if it's something more. And so I always ask a question to the deceased dream figure, what do you have to tell me? I don't tell them, hey, do you know you're dead? And all that kind of stuff. That's immaterial. You're here. What do you have to tell me? And so oftentimes I'll get information about future coming events and all that kind of thing. But again, for a first lucid dream, that's a pretty powerful one. So I was happy for that young person. We're going to go to Sierra next. Hi there.
Hi. Hey, I love these talks that you do. I also listen while I'm at work, so I have to be fast. I am sorry, you guys just talked about interacting with someone who has passed away in a dream. And I just wanted to share that one of the things in your book that really stuck out to me was, I think you called it a clarity dream, where everything looks like a void around the dream and it's just like one figure. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but I also had a dream that was like that. So I highlighted that part of the book. It wasn't lucid, but it was before I even knew about that. And it was of a girl who had committed suicide. And I had just become religious. I'm not anymore, but I had worried that I was like, oh no, what happened? I was 14. So I was like, I hope she went to heaven. And I saw her in the dream and it was completely like in a black space, like void, but except for it was just her in the center standing in front of her casket. And it looked like she had a backlight of glowing light behind her.
Oh, wow.
And her hair was all full again and her cheeks were pink. And she showed me her wrists, even though that's not how it happened. She showed that they were like scabbing over and healing. And when I woke up, I just said, oh, she went to heaven. And I never worried about it ever again. And it reminded me of what you talked about in your book about a clarity dream. And I had never heard of that before. And I just thought it was really cool.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. You know, it's interesting to hear some of the experiences people have with loved ones who have passed away, and anymore, there's a fair number of young people who know people who have passed away, friends of theirs, and all. And I remember I was part of a class. I don't want to say too much here, but in the class was this one young woman, and her brother had passed away. And so what would happen is she would find herself driving in a car. She was a passenger, and she'd look over, and it was her deceased brother. And oftentimes what he would do is at this moment, she'd become basically lucidly aware. And then she was said they would have to pass through this gate, and then they would climb up into this building. And then her brother wanted her to do this thing, which was run across the building and jump into the blue light. And and she had this recurring dream. To me, it sounded like she was basically lucid or semi-lucid, but every time she refused to jump into the light. And so I think her brother was trying to tell her in basically a fundamental way, just like Sierra learned, that that in this other dimension, he's aware and alive. And in this other dimension, he's having deeper experiences of consciousness. And so there's nothing to worry about. And it was interesting in Sierra's experience, the young woman had was showing her wrists kind of to show that the pain was being healed over and that sort of thing. And so that's a beautiful thing, because a lot of times the fundamental message is that we carry on, and then the secondary message is, there's not really a need to worry or something, that healing's occurring. So anyway, thanks so much for sharing that, Sierra. That's really great. Before I get to Claudia, I'm going to answer some of these things. So Carla writes, hi, Robert, would you recommend the use of any gadget to boost lucid dreaming? Or do you think one should be patient and try to develop the ability for oneself? Thanks. So Carla, I have kind of two different thoughts about this. Some people use gadgets, like they'll get night lights for their eyes, and in the middle of the night, it'll shoot red light into your eyes, and hopefully you'll see the red light in your dream and then realize that's the signal and become lucidly aware. So I don't really have any problems with that. I had a fan who sent me a nightlight goggle that he had created. And so this fan, he sent it to me with the instructions. So the first night, I tried to get it all set up, put it on my head at night, and fell asleep. And then I think in the middle of the night, I realized it had already fallen off my head, and so that wasn't any good. And then I looked at it in the morning, and I think, I don't even think I got it set up right. So now I spent a lot of time before sleep, being sure I had set it up right and put it on my head. And that night, I'm driving down 13th Street, and it's snowing. And all of a sudden, the car in front of me spins out and goes into the snowy ditch, and the red lights are flashing. And I drive by thinking, red lights? Oh, is that goofy gadget on my head? Is this a dream? And so I decided to float out of the car, and I totally floated out of the car. In the morning, I realized, though, that I hadn't got the gadget to work at all. That it was just my expectation to see red flashing lights was what got me to become lucidly aware. So again, that shows the power of expectation. So that's why my answer is going to be two parts. If you believe a gadget will help, then it's going to help. And so if you want to get a gadget, get a gadget. I don't have any problem with it. But fundamentally, I want people to understand that really, in many respects, it's the mind that we're developing. It's the mind that we're using. And that's fundamentally at the basis of the thing. So you can use the gadget to kind of kickstart your lucid dreaming if you wish. But, I don't want you 30 years from now still using the gadget and all that kind of stuff, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't want you to use it as a crutch, is basically what I'm saying. So, yeah. So no problem with gadgets, all that. Fur asks, would you say anything about any event in the future you were giving knowledge of? Well, sometimes, no, this was just a regular dream. It wasn't a lucid dream. A voice told me that we're going to have here in the U.S. a digital currency, a U.S. dollar digital currency. I wasn't given a date when that's going to happen. I don't know if that's next year or 20 years from now. So that's a good one. Occasionally I'll get those kind of things where something will be explained like that. But that's the only one that I really want to talk about or have any kind of feeling of certainty about. I think that maybe here in the coming month, there might be something that has to do with the seas. Had a strange dream about a week ago that the sea rose up into the main street of this city I was in, and everyone pulled off to the side to watch the sea come up Main Street. And so that makes me wonder if something's going to happen on the sea that slows down the economy, or something's going to happen there. Right before that, in the dream, I was getting gas. So I don't know if it has to do with oil and gas. Kiara writes, I had a lucid dream. I had a little dream a month ago. All I remembered when I woke up was that there was black feathers in the dream, and it had the clarity of lucid dreams. I wrote in my dream journal, black feathers. Then later that day, as I walked with my daughter in a park, she stopped to pick up small black feathers that she uses in her crafts. The dream came straight back to me. Slightly prophetic dream or just a coincidence? Don't know, but it felt potent. And it, that's what got me interested in dreaming altogether way back when, is that as a little kid, I'd have these dreams, and like in the dream, I would hear some really unusual phrase or wording. And then 5 hours later, I'd be awake and I'm running around on the playground with the other little kids. And one of the little kids would say the exact set of strange words that had happened in the dream. And I thought, how does that happen? How do you explain that? And also, so Kiara, I really like that, how you dreamt about the black feathers, and then you're walking with your daughter, and all of a sudden, here's this group of black feathers that she picks up. Anyway, sounds like you picked up something outside of linear time, and that shows us that dreaming, like this research study that just came out using Dave Green, a lucid dreamer, to pick up future dream images. I think someday people will accept that you can get information outside of space and time. Anyway, we're going to end up with Claudio here, and then I'm going to have to call it quits. So Claudio, go for it.
I'm reading Robert Moss about dreaming in Iraqi culture, and I was reading also Toltec Secret by Sergio Magagna, and they speak about a lot of tradition about the dreaming to find food, to find something in the ancient cultures was something normal, usual to do it. And about projection, I understand what the past people that we see in our dreams. For example, Sergio Magagna thinks that we have to fix on the color, because, for example, if they have like a eyes with a red color, in the first time I was scared about the red, the color, but he think that is a real. This is mean that it's something real, because the red is something real in an archetype of something real deep from the wand. And it's really interesting how all what this ancient culture do with dreams was real so normal. We lost it.
Yeah. One thing that I realized, my wife and I went on a float trip down the Grand Canyon. So you spend 7 days on a boat. You sleep out under the stars at night. Cell phones and things don't always work down in the Grand Canyon, so you're kind of just removed from society. And my dreaming and lucid dreaming just went crazy. And I think these ancient cultures, they didn't have Netflix, they didn't have Hulu, they didn't have any of that. They had dreaming. And to them, dreaming was another interesting avenue of exploration. It was kind of the one channel they had. They had one channel, and it was dreaming. And so a lot of them learned how to become lucidly aware and do all of that stuff. I remember when I was reading Sergio Manana's book, he brought up these people with kind of red eyes. And actually, I was surprised he brought it up, because I've probably had it happen twice in lucid dreams where I've met someone who has glowing red eyes. And this is before I'd ever read his book. And I remember the first time it happened, I was walking down this pathway to a cave. And here was a little park bench with an old woman sitting there just really quietly. And I'm walking along, and somehow I'd become lucidly aware. And suddenly this old woman looked up and said to me something along the lines like, "What are you doing?" And I think I told her, well, this is a dream, so I'm going to go explore that cave. And she goes, so this is a dream. And then she went on and said, "What is it that you really, really want from lucid dreaming?" And it really surprised me that this dream figure with red glowing eyes would ask me this question. And I think I bring this book up in my first, I bring this dream up in my first book. And I told her basically, I wanted to send love to everyone or something like that, or send love to 100 people. And she looked at me, and I don't know if she said that was the stupidest thing ever, but basically she gave me the look that was the stupidest use of lucid dreaming, sending love to others. It was like, I don't think I could have said anything dumber than that, but that's how she looked at me. But Sergio Mañana, and as I recall reading his book, the people who had red eyes were the people who have kind of shifted their entire awareness into the dream state, and that's where they basically exist, and they like interacting with aware people because it kind of helps to re-energize them. I think is what he was trying to get across there. So anyway,
they have also meeting. There are dreamer meeting in the dream. They have like this kind of event. Have you ever assisted something like that? As a lucid dreamer?
So in the one that I just expressed, I was lucidly aware and met this woman on my way to a cave.
Yeah. No, but for example, I speak about, for example, always Shermaganya. He'll tell them they used to every equinox in certain period, in certain date. They meet all dreamers meet in the dream state. All together, making like some kind of meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You ever been have this kind of experience with other dreamers?
Oh yeah. So in my first book, I have a chapter, Mutual Lucid Dreaming, and there you can read experiments that Ed Kellogg and Linda Magellan and I conducted, where we sought to meet up in lucid dreams and all. So you can read about it and some of our successes and some of our near misses and all. But one thing that's interesting that you brought up there, and I'm doing this other event with folks, and this woman was told in her dream that she should compare her equinox dreams to the previous equinox dreams. And I know this woman has not read any Sergio Mañana and all. And one person in the class pulled out their dream journals and started connecting all the equinox dreams and was stunned that, oh, the spring equinox, it was a further dream it was the same people I met in the fall equinox and all. And so it was really, really fascinating to see that. And also for this woman to learn this technique in the dream state, because where do you learn that kind of stuff? I mean, most of us would never think, oh, I should read back 6 months from the equinox and what was I dreaming the previous equinox. So anyway, that just shows you how beautiful and amazing and incredible dreaming and lucid dreaming is. And that's why I encourage people just to fall in love with lucid dreams or fall in love with dreaming. If you fall in love with dreaming, I think it'll make your path in lucid dreaming and all these other aspects so much easier. So anyway, I need to run because I have an appointment, so I'm going to let everyone go. I'll be back here in about a month. It'll either be on Wednesday or Thursday, just depending upon how that month.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Good to see everyone. Okay.
Thank you again.
Okay. Thanks. Good to see you, Jane. Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.